HMG weekly wrap-up. Bringing you the latest headlines in the news, what you missed on the podcast, upcoming events, community updates, and stories spotlighting our community heroes. This is where the week gets wrapped up, HMG style. And now, here's your host, Mr. Adam Bird.
All right, what's up? Happy Friday, everybody. Thank God it's Friday. Oh, my goodness. Who's ready for the weekend? I certainly am. Hope everybody's had a good week this week. We've got a lot to talk about this week. I've got, I don't know, probably almost a dozen stories that we're going to go over. And, one of the things I did not mention in the little description is we've got a special guest coming on today. We've got some events coming up. You guys have heard me talk about the different events coming up, but there's one particular event I think everybody really needs to pay attention to. And I want to bring on my special guest right now. She's no stranger. You guys have seen her on the HMG weekly wrap-up in the past. She's a retired Army veteran, retired Lieutenant Colonel. I don't hold that against her. I love her anyway. But nonetheless, she's like a little sister to me. But she's a part of this group and event that is coming up next month. So I'm going to bring her on right now. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, my little sister, Olivia Nunn. Sis.
Morning.
What's up?
Hold it against me for me being an officer. I'm crushed.
I know, the boy's an officer now too, so it's kind of like I gotta.
Don't worry, I have my own sergeant major that I could beat up every.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like as if people know what I'm talking about. I'm pointing to that desk over there because that's where he sits. He's a retired sergeant major, so yeah.
Oh goodness. So, Olivia, real quick before we jump into the events and stuff like that, some people that are new and whatnot that don't know you actually. Like I mentioned, you are a retired lieutenant colonel out of the Army, and you have your own communication company, but you also have a couple of podcasts on HMG. You and I have been working together. God, it's been 6 years we've known each other now.
Longer than that, I think almost a decade.
Yeah, so it's like I can't even. Wow. So. Time flies, right? But why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about yourself while I share this out and get some of the heathens on here. So go ahead.
Yeah. So like you said, I'm retired, coming up on almost 5 years. I can't believe it. It seems like yesterday in some ways. This September will be 5 years that I took off the uniform. Wow. I know, it's nuts. So I am retired. My last job was U.S. Army Soldier for Life. So a lot of people know me from there because I created one of the Army's first podcast series, the Soldier for Life podcast series. So I was able to work with that and meet a lot of great people and organizations. From there, I helped MOA create their first podcast series, the Never Stop Serving podcast series. So I jumped from one to another. And then I took a hiatus, because it's called life and, figuring out what do I want to be when I grow up. And I'm still trying to answer that. Started my own company, worked out in the background, do government work. But I never left the nonprofit space when it comes to the military community. And in that, you and I had some long conversations about where my voice was needed. I started a podcast series with my partner that kind of took off for a while, and then we kind of shuttered it just because he got busy with his own company. Yeah. And then I just finally realized that I needed to come back to the microphone because it's what I really like to do, even though I can't stand editing. But I like storytelling. That's something that I've always enjoyed doing. So I am the producer and author, if you will, of 2 podcast series called Women of War. I showcase all the stories of women that have worn the uniform, whether it was the military, if you're a nurse, a first responder, or law enforcement. The only requirements you got to fit in one of those categories or being a woman. And then the other series is called Unbreakable Storm. Unbreakable Storm is open to anybody, any gender, any background. You do not have to be military affiliated. And the idea of that is someone who's hit rock bottom and learned to rise from that storm. Define your rock bottom. Is it because you've gone through a divorce? Is it because you've gone through a rough transition? Your business has hit rock bottom. You lost someone. You've survived a suicide, the death of someone, or substance use, or maybe it's all of those. And a lot of that comes from my own personal walk in a lot of those stories. So
yeah, I've had the privilege of watching you transition and really grow and kind of find your footing, and you and I have had a lot of conversations, offline and stuff like that. So I want to say I'm proud of you and how far you've come over the last couple of years in your transition and whatnot. So
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken, good morning, brother. Good to see you on this week. Ken's an old friend of mine who served together, so appreciate you having on. Livy, I'm going to fast forward now and dive into this event that we got coming up next month down in Tampa, Florida.
Yes.
Right. In fact, I'm going to bring it up here. Here's the image. The conversation that matters. Look at that. I see you there. Looks like you're going to be speaking on this. What the real estate cares, the conversation that matters. Tell us about this event and why it's so important.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the audience that follows you, that follows me, come from the military background. Yeah. And at some point in our career, we all know that the boots are going to have to come off and the uniform is going to have to get hung up. Yeah. And whether that is by choice or the military is going to tell you, you have to go, right? Mm. And the thing that we always come back around to, or the data point that's always given, that transition is going to hit you, whether it's going to be the first day after transition or maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. Yeah. And the part of transition that is difficult is the emotional, mental part of transition. It is your sense of identity. It is who you are. It's answering, what do you want to be when I grow up? It is redefining your purpose, because for many of us, the military, that nation's cloth that we wore, represented so much of that. And while many of us don't miss the 2 a.m. wake up calls and hurry up and waiting in line and all the other fun BS that comes with it, the people have always mattered. And that, I think, is the hard part that you're just never going to find in any organization. You'll find camaraderie in other places, but not exactly the way you did when you wore that uniform. So what does that mean about this particular event?
Yeah.
Well, we know that transition can be harder for others. And 1 in 4, the data says that transition is extremely hard. And oftentimes that transition can lead to really dark places. And for some, it can lead to suicide. There are some numbers that have been said that there's 22 a day when it comes to veterans committing suicide. There's even numbers that say 44 a day. While we may not know exactly the numbers, because, some get reported, some don't, the way that men report it, the way women, the bottom line is it's one too many.
Right.
And in my own personal walk, as I've struggled with my own suicide ideations throughout the years, is that we struggle with asking for help from this as the community that we come from, and also finding the resources that are necessary to help us. And so having a conversation and being able to come together as a community to, one, let's talk about it. Let's shine the light. Let's bring those resources together so that we can really make a difference, is what this dinner is all about.
Let me ask you a question here. You're bringing up a good point. Is like the transition side of it is it's been difficult for a lot of people. And I've been out now for almost 20 years, and seeing how the transition for people over the last 20 years has changed, there hasn't, I mean, there's more organizations. There's so many organizations out there that help veterans and want to help veterans. Why is it so difficult for the transition to happen? Does it come back on the veterans just not wanting the help or just having that mindset? Like you mentioned, it's hard to ask for help. I still have trouble asking for help on things, and that's with anything in life in general, right? So, is it a mindset that we're just so programmed to not ask for help, like I'll figure it out, or I don't want to bother anybody, or do we need to start having more conversations about changing that people's mindset as they get ready to transition out then?
I think mindset is a huge part of it. I think it's also, are we talking to a women veteran or a male veteran? Oftentimes women don't identify as a veteran for a lot of reasons. When you say veteran, what comes to mind? I guarantee you, when you say that, most people think it's a white male. They never think it's a female, let alone a minority female. I'm one of thousands of voices that could tell you, if you park in a veteran parking spot, the number of nasty comments that you'll get. Hey, that's where heroes park. You don't belong there, ma'am. Or real heroes serve and you didn't. Or that I'm not a combat veteran because I didn't go out the wire, which I did, right? Or the list goes on. And it does go back to asking for help. Well, why don't we ask for help? It's the sense of, well, I'm going to be a burden if I do. Who's really going to help me? I'm not hurting as much as maybe the person next to me, so I don't want to take away that time or resource from them. There's tons of reasons.
Yeah.
The shame, the guilt of whatever it is that's holding you back for asking for that help, whether it's because of something that you did downrange, or maybe it's your current financial situation, or maybe it's because your marriage is falling apart. Maybe it's all of those things.
Yeah.
And we all have skeletons in our closet, and you're afraid that if I open my mouth and say, I need help, and the next question goes, okay, but why? And then now you have to explain why you need help. And if you explain those things, man, what are they going to think of me?
Right.
Will they think less of me? And will they no longer be my friend? And will they no longer provide a seat at the table for me?
You get like the snowball effect.
Yes,
of it.
100%.
And I get that. So let me ask you this. What's the military doing now to help people transition easier?
This is my opinion and my opinion only. Like I said, I'm coming up on 5 years from having hung up the uniform. And I think any commander or any sergeant major or first sergeant can say this, when you give up that command position, you're like, oh, that was my baby, right?
Yeah.
And I think having worked at U.S. Army Soldier for Life, I felt like the team that I worked with, which was an amazing team, did such great work out there, did such good out there all across the U.S., creating these strategic relationships with such good organizations that really want to do good for our veterans and our transitioning service members. And I feel like over time, those relationships have eroded because the focus for our military has changed. It has not been about the transition, but more so the warfighter and what the warfighter is doing because of the current landscape, because of the tensions that we have in the Middle East, because what our focus is on, and whether you want to say it's political or not. That's just my personal opinion. And of course, there's been struggle with our budget,
right?
How much money the military is getting. And the truth is, we're not going to cut away beans and bullets, but we are going to cut away funding for things that oftentimes don't get talked about. Resources to our families, resources to our kids' education, resources to our holistic health, resources to things like Soldier for Life and the transition resources, right? Those are the things that get cut away. So that's just my personal take on how I've kind of seen things.
Yeah.
And then I think to go back to the earlier conversation of, why transition is difficult, it's also the resources that are out there. There are plenty. The issue is, do you know about those resources? Number one. Yeah. And then do you fit the criteria that those resources are readily available for? Right. And oftentimes you may or may not fit that criteria. a lot of great resources are out there if you belong to the special operations community. Well, I don't come from that community, so I can't utilize that. And I'm not a spouse of the special operations community or a child of special operations. So then, that kind of dwindles some of those resources.
So there are specific.
Yeah. And then are you GWAT, right? Are you Global War on Terrorism? Because if you're a Vietnam era, if you are a Gulf War veteran, all of those things I think impact the ability for those that can help you. And then just kind of some of the other pieces, a lot of good resources that are out there that are willing to help. But they also struggle with funding. They want to help, but maybe, can you meet us halfway? We can bring you to our campsite, but you've got to get travel funding to us. Yeah. Well, the military community as a whole, whether you're still in and if you're transitioning, often struggle with finances. So, man, I really need help, but I don't know how to pay for my travel out there, or I don't know how to take time out. That's the other part. How do I take time out of my schedule to go get this help that I really need? But then I'm going to be leaving my family where I should be working, bringing in dollars.
Right.
And then there's that guilt to that. There's that guilt as a parent, as a mom. And so as someone who didn't take care of her mental health for almost 5 years, it got to the point where if I don't go, I may not be here anymore.
Yeah. So, first off, David Gordon, good morning, brother. Considering rejoining for some free yeah. I mean, you get the t-shirts and I mean, they do clothe you. I mean, you get to keep those, right? I mean, I still got my uniform. Although my basic training uniform pants, I ended up giving them to my son because they can't get around my thigh now. That's another story. Anyway, back to this event in Tampa. MVP, that's
Merging Vets and Players.
Yeah,
co-founded by Nate Boyer.
By Nate Boyer, who's a mutual friend of ours. Nate's a good guy, and he does a lot for this community. Who else is on this panel, and can you talk a little bit more about what's happening that particular night?
Yeah, so why we picked Tampa, if for many of those that may or may not know, that week there's quite a few events that are going on. One of the biggest events that's going to go on for the military community is MIC. MIC stands for the Military Influencers Conference. It was created by a good friend, Cortez Riggs. He started, I think, almost like 10 years ago. I think this might actually be the 10th year. A really good conference for the military community to come together. Great speakers that are going to be headlining that particular event. It's been in DC, it's been in Las Vegas, it's been in Atlanta, and now it's coming to Tampa. So if you are someone who is looking for a military conference to go to that's got some great speakers, some great topics that you're going to learn, and oh, by the way, it's a networking event and it's also a great reunion, definitely check out MIC. With that being said, it made sense to go to where not only is there a large military community already in place, Tampa is home to a large military community, both the Army and the Air Force, right? We got special operations down there. We've got a joint command down there in Tampa. So it made sense to kind of already go down there. And since we've already got a large group of military headed down there, it made sense to have this dinner. So Nate Boyer, the co-founder of Merging Vets and Players, he's got, his organization spread throughout the U.S. There are chapters. And MVP is about doing exactly what we're talking about, right? Helping with that transition space. Sometimes getting out of your own house and getting together through the common bond of service is something that you need, right? That community. And he has his own story. And in fact, there's actually a film about it. If you know anything about Nate and the work that he's done, and if you don't, I highly recommend that you take a look at his story. And then, so there's Nate, my boss, Ryan Beckman. I am the chief operating officer of Hero Picks. It is a fundraising platform. And so, he's actively, big in the mental health space, in the domestic violence space, about just trying to do good, right? Yeah. He's not military affiliated. He is a civilian. He's got a huge hockey background, and he just has a heart to do good. And so
he's a machine. The guy's a machine.
He is, right? I don't think that guy ever sleeps.
No.
Sometimes I have to tell him, like, hey, Ryan, go to bed. um, and so he'll be there. He'll be on the panel. While he's not military, he has a lot of similar stories and a lot of understanding of what it means to come from dark places.
Yeah.
And he understands servant leadership. And then there's Carlos. He is a Green Beret. He's actually stationed near Tampa. And so, he's a great leader. He's a warrant officer. He was enlisted and then transitioned to being a warrant officer. And he talks about human performance and just how, many of us, I think, struggle with not just showing up to work, but how do you show up, and how do you put yourself first in a way that isn't selfish, and then taking care of yourself, so that way when it is time to transition, you're in that right mindset.
Right.
And then we have the Laveries, Nick and Tony Lavery. Both are, fantastic powerhouse couple. For those that don't know who Nick is, he is an active duty warrant officer. He was the first amputee to return back to active duty. He's also a Green Beret. And he's got an amazing story. If you don't know much about Nick, I highly recommend that you also look him up and learn about his story, about perseverance, about digging in, about the mindset. And he's just a great guy. He's also really, really tall. And he's just got this larger than life personality, but very humble. And I think, I think people will just really gravitate between him and Nate about stories about resilience. And then Tony, his wife, Tony is a force to be reckoned with as well. In fact, she led a group this past June, the first females to jump into Normandy. So the 82nd Airborne Division celebrated their 82nd anniversary and to jump into Normandy.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about history, women have never jumped into Normandy because, we were never afforded the opportunity.
Cool thing.
Yeah. And she took a group and they jumped. And so, she does have a background and she worked in special operations herself. And so she understands what it means to lead in some of the toughest places. And she just, her story is also amazing. She's got some great podcast stories out there, but, trying to figure yourself out in this space about who do you want to be and how do you continuously serve the community and how do you make it better. And so that's what this panel is about. And this conversation that I think is vitally important. How do you come out from hiding behind your guilt, your shame, your worry, and are people going to look at me differently, and getting past all of that and recognizing that we have to have this conversation. There are organizations that really want to do good. We need to plug you in. And for the companies that aren't affiliated with the military, we need you. We need you at this table. We need you in this part of this conversation to understand what we're going through. And so, yeah, I look forward to those that want to have a part of this conversation, that want to be at this dinner. And if you can't make it, but want to support us, sponsor a seat at this table, sponsor a table, because this work is vitally important.
And you can go to realestatecares.com. I'll put it in the show notes after the show and stuff as well, along with the image. It's going to be at Whiskey Joe's on the beach down in Tampa, Florida, September 23rd from 5:30 to 9 p.m. You see the speakers here, the conversation you guys do not want to miss. So if you're in the Tampa area or you need an excuse to go to Florida for a few days, this is a great time to do it. Great week to do it, as Olivia said. Lots going on. She mentioned the MIC. I'll be down there for another event with our friends over at Team Addo that week as well. I'll be heading to this event, so I'm looking forward to seeing you down there, sis, on this event. So again, realestatecares.com. Make sure you check it out. If you can sponsor a table, do it. If you can, even better yet, if you could show up, do that as well. Let's get some people at this event. This is the conversation that you are not going to want to miss.
Yeah, and right now we're promoting. If you use the code MIC, MIC, gets you 10% off of a ticket. So we really want to pack this place out, right? I think this conversation is super important. It's not just my perspective, right? I've brought in tons of data. And I think the other part that I want to bring in, besides saying that Tampa is a huge military installation location, Florida is also the number 2 state when it comes to veterans, right?
Yeah.
Kind of bringing back my Soldier for Life hat. Florida is a number 2 state for those that for the military when they leave, whether they go back to Florida or they choose to pick Florida as their state of residence for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of jobs. The weather's amazing, and also no income state tax. I think a lot of people like that. A lot of great healthcare options, especially for retirees. So, Florida is a great choice. And especially, if you're asking, we didn't really touch on this, but real estate cares. Why is it real estate cares? For those that are in the realtor business, what we have found is that oftentimes there's groups of organizations or groups that, want to get involved, that are looking for purpose. And I think this is a great segment that can get involved, especially for realtors, right? We know that the military are constantly moving in and out. What better way than to get the realtor community involved? They see the military community move in and out more than anybody else, right? Moving the military in and out of homes. So let's connect them into this community, and get them connected into purpose, and having them understand a little bit more about our military community, and working together. And I've always said this, right? In order to effectively drive down military suicide and really change military mental health, we're going to have to work together as a community. And when I talk about community, I'm talking about the civilian community and the military community. And I truly believe with every fiber in my being that the money's there, the resources are there, the people that know how to do it, and the equipment, they're all there. They're just misaligned, and they're just not talking at the right time in the right location. I truly believe that in my walk, in all the places I've gone, all the things that I've seen, I know it's there. We're just not talking at the right time. So if this is a place that we can have that conversation and start bringing the right people together, I would be super excited.
realestatecares.com. Check it out. Get your tickets. It's going to be September 23rd from 5:30 to 9 down at Tampa, Florida. Whiskey Joe's on the beach. We want to see you there, folks. I expect to see you guys there. And of course, Olivia, I will certainly see you there. And looking forward to that and meeting Ryan finally face to face.
Yeah, it'll be a good reunion. Like, I always love these events, right? It's always good to see people.
Well, good stuff. Any parting words before we let you go today, sis?
It's always about the people, right?
Yeah.
Serving in the uniform was about the people, right? Whether the day was bad or good, it was always about the people. And I think that still holds true even after hanging up the uniform. So if it's within your heart, it's about the people. It's specifically the military community. So please show up to this dinner. If you can't, help someone come to this dinner, sponsor a seat, sponsor a table. Let's really shine a light on military mental health, especially transition, and let's make this community a better place. And let's get more resources. Let's have this conversation and let's make it better.
Let's make it happen. Thanks, sis. Appreciate you.
No, thank you.
All right, guys. We are going to listen. This is going to be a fun event. We're going to be at it. I am physically going to be down there September 23rd. Again, it is Whiskey Joe's on the beach, realestatecares.com. Please go check it out and make sure that you are there. It's sponsored. Check it out. Love to see you guys there. And I'm going to continue bringing this up until the actual event. So certainly looking forward to this. We're coming up. Wow. We're 30 minutes in. All right. What do we have here? I only go back to the comments. David Gordon, testosterone. Oh, not t-shirts. You meant testosterone, not t-shirts. That's my fault. My bad. I guess you're at that age. Maybe you need a little. No judgment here. No judgment. That's fine. Ryan, 10-year. Yep. Rich LaMonica, good morning to you, brother. Appreciate you guys jumping on. Hey, go check out all the shows. Simply go to heroesmediagroup.com. We've got some new shows up on the network. We're going to get into some of the segments and some of the stories. But before I do that, I want to thank Olivia Nunn for joining us today and talking about that event coming up in Tampa in September. So a real estate cares event with MVP. So I see some folks over on the gram. Thank you guys for jumping in as well. So the first segment this week is Congress robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? This has been huge on the VFW back in the news. It's been, I know you guys have seen this on social media. They call it the Take Care for American Veterans Act. It sounds great, right? Until you read the fine print, and then they tried to fund the group of veterans by cutting benefits for other veterans. Again, these are stories that you are seeing, and headlines can be a bit deceiving depending on who you're following and different groups and whatnot. David, so you leaving that one alone. So the major Richard Starr Act has been all over this week, right, in the news, and what we want that it fixes the concurrent receipt problem for 50,000 combat injured veterans who are medically retired, and that's a good thing. But it's this has been a decade coming, right? So what's actually happening, or what happened? Who's been following this story that's happening on the Hill right now? I think there's just trying to figure out how to put it. There's a lot of pros and cons, but are we polling benefits from veterans? I don't think we should ever pull benefits from veterans personally. And that's cutting future veterans. So like that's like saying everybody that's active duty right now is not going to get the benefits that initially that they signed up for. Or maybe there's a clause in there that being grandfathered in or whatever. I don't think it's right. It's Rich. I'm going to put this up here. There's so much to this, and depending on who you look at. But the VFW, I think I'm on the VFW side on this one. I think they're doing a good job. I talked about the what was it, Congressman or whatever, Mike Bost calling for the VA to investigate the VFW's accreditation. I think that's horrible that's happening. The VFW's been there. The one thing I'll say, and whether you like the VFW or not, or you think it's an old school mentality, one thing is for certain, that the VFW has been there through and through for the veteran community. I've had great experience with the VFW in the past, and I think it's great. What's really shocking to me are some veterans that have been trashing the VFW, calling it calling the VFW disgraceful. How many of you seen here's actually one. I don't know if you guys saw this. This also happened this week down in DC. There was a group of veterans that gave Representative Dan Crenshaw the Blue Falcon Award. I'm going to keep this up here for a moment. Did this actually happen? Per social media, I think it happened. Congressman or Representative Dan Crenshaw, former Navy SEAL, came out. I don't know if you've seen his post that he made on social media, basically saying that if you're a veteran with tinnitus and sleep apnea, that it's weak, and that those aren't the words that he actually said. I'm not putting words in Dan's mouth, but he basically said that it's a joke. And if you go and see the comments from his post, they're all blue. The majority of them are all Blue Falcon comments. It's hard for me to believe that he would. It's not hard for me to believe. It's disgusting that he said something like that. It's infuriating. Why are we trying to take benefits away from future veterans? It is. It's frustrating, and here's the thing: if you look at the Star Act and whatnot, there's like a couple things in there that. So why not? You could take those two things out that wouldn't affect future veterans, and then pass the bill. But to me, I feel like there's so much more into this than what's being said and what we're seeing on the news. What do we have here? Let me check these, David. Seems to be the reason for. Yeah, Rich, it's back and forth. American Legion feels one way, VFW feels another way. Yeah, I get it. It to me, a lot of the stuff that I've seen, it seems like it's over the sleep apnea and the tinnitus. When they bet or Grenshaw's an a-hole. Yeah, well, I'm not arguing with you there, David. Here's the thing. I think the VFW is in the right place if they're fighting to not take the benefits away from future veterans. That's what I'm seeing, and maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but there's a lot of things out there that are part of this bill that are good, and that people want. But at what case? Here's the other thing. This is the thing that really gets me. I want to throw this out there. They're talking about, how's it going to get funded? There was like $58 billion over the next 30 years, $1 trillion over the next 30, whatever it was, some astronomical amount of money that it would save the government or whatnot. What about this? What about if the money that's needed for this, we took away from the senators and the Congress people that get paid while the government is in shutdown? What if we took the money from the Congress people and the string pullers when they do insider trading and stuff like that, and then hold them accountable? Why aren't we holding Congress accountable? And David, I'm sorry. I actually built the tinfoil hat, and I wasn't going to talk about stuff like this today, so I didn't bring it in the studio here. But if I had my tinfoil hat, maybe I'm being a little bit of a conspiracist here, but why aren't we holding Congress accountable? Why, you have these Congress people that are worth millions and millions of dollars on a salary of like what, $120,000 to $180,000 a year, and they're worth millions and millions. Like, hey, Dan, let me put this picture back up again, just because I thought it was hilarious, quite personally. All the money that you made while you represented your district and whatnot, why don't you put some of the money back into it then? I think when you start talking about taking away veteran benefits, you got to start looking at what the hell you're spending money on. What is the government spending money on? This war in Iran is certainly not cheap. I bet they could find the money turning the waste in the VA. Good point, David Gordon. Good point. Rich, what do we have here? It's classic. Do as they say. Tell you. Yeah. Tax the rich. Yeah. It's all, lay off American workers or make them work for free. But Congress and them gets to keep their paycheck while they're not working. We've said in the past, and people have said over the last couple of years, we're on the verge of a civil war. You keep shit up like this. And this is how I'm looking at this part, especially with when you bring in the veteran community as a whole, and you got veteran organizations that are kind of butting heads, that could lead to a civil war. I'm just not saying it's going to, but it could. Don't touch veteran benefits, period. Congress, you should be ashamed of yourself for even thinking it. How are we going to pay for future veterans? Stop pissing away money on bullshit that we didn't ask for. How about you guys take a cut from your pay and all the insider bullshit that you guys do? Yeah, obviously, it's not going to be a. Sorry, kids, if you're listening. Ryan Hunt, what do we have here? Promise made our national treasure needs to keep promise, period, full stop. It's a good point, Ryan. National treasure equals the war fighter. I got it. I got you, brother. Oh, David Gordon in the clutch. I love this. Reduce congressional pay and benefits across the board. All in favor? Aye. Brothers and sisters, I think we need to hunker down because this is going to be one hell of a fight. And it's not coming. It's at our front door. Well, I almost said it. I did not say it, but it's at the front door. Guys, I got to move on. We're gonna keep dibs on what happens here with this. Just one more time, just before I go on to the next story. I don't care who you are. That's funny. And if somebody sees it and tells him about it, I don't know, whatever. Jay Sparks, good morning to you. All right, segment. Next story was the media blackout. Who decides what you get to hear? Last night, President Trump did a primetime speech on election security, and it was about China, but ABC, NBC, and CNN chose not to put it out there. Tony, good morning to you, brother. Appreciate you jumping on. Their excuse was that they were worried about misinformation. Come on! ABC, NBC, and CNN flat out refused to air Trump's speech on their broadcast networks because they were worried about misinformation. That is priceless. Here's the reality. They're the gatekeepers, right? And if you look into who owns these mainstream media conglomerates, you'll see that they're all kind of tied in together. And they work together. Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, and ABC affiliates did carry it in some form or fashion. So half the country saw it, or they're saying half the country saw it. The other half didn't even know it was on. I was looking for it last night, couldn't find it anywhere. So that was interesting. Pop, good morning. Enrique Gonzalez, thank you for jumping on. Appreciate you. So it's interesting that these media outlets decide not to, they're, again, the gatekeepers, right? And don't take my word for it, guys. You got to listen. I tell you guys, like these stories that I talk about, sometimes it's from my perspective, but I at least tell you it's from my perspective. I'm not right. Probably not wrong either. The point that I make is I'm sharing this stuff with you guys is do your own research and come to your own conclusions. My opinion, mainstream media, whether it's Fox, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, whatever, it's all crap. All of it. All of it. I don't care what side of the political aisle. It's not even about a political aisle anymore. You look at, people say, oh, it's the Republicans against the Democrats. No, it's not even that anymore. It's getting to be an us versus them. Anyway, I'm done with that. Next up, we got the monument. Have you guys seen this? About the shrinking of bears' ears and the Grand Staircase over in Utah by 90%. This is again, mainstream media, depending on who you watch on this. On July 13, President Trump signed an executive order reducing bears' ears from 1.36 million acres down to about 121,000 acres. Grand Staircase was cut by roughly 900,000 to 1.7 million acres, depending on how you measure it. Total reduction approximately close to 3 million acres. Now, these monuments were massive federal overreaches by the Obama administration. This is what they're saying. And you're going to see a lot of people on social media saying, like, this is an outrage, this is bad, this is this is that. Here's the thing. I've talked to several people, particularly ranchers in the region. And I've spoken to a lot of I say a lot. I've spoken to several people near those areas. And if you guys don't believe me, go call me. If you got people down in Utah, call them. Talk to a local rancher. Talk to a local, the local counties. They've been under the thumb of the federal government for over a decade now. This is the biggest return of public land in American history. And people who live there are celebrating right now. The ranchers out there are happy. It is opening up for livestock and whatnot as well. Now, people are like, oh, well, what the mainstream media, I saw this, one of the stories was, well, now that Trump has reduced this, there's going to be vandalism on the hieroglyphics or the rocks or whatnot, and some of those that's happened. They're trying to mix this together, and don't let the media play into that. Almost 3 million acres being returned to basically the state, right? That's, whether you agree with it or not, it is what it is. It's a return, not a theft. Tina, good morning, sis. How are you? So here's the other thing. As you guys are going through social media and you're seeing all of these headlines of, about the national monuments and now it's opening up for, or this was the big one. It's opening up for drilling. It's opening up for this. It's opening up for new pipelines and this and this. Sure, I could see the argument there. But what you're not seeing is that you guys don't realize how much the federal government having a hold on that. You didn't see how much it was affecting your food sovereignty. Oh, what do you mean, Adam? Why are you talking about that? I'm not getting into that. I don't have enough time. That's a whole nother show in and of itself. But look at the positive of this. And I would encourage anybody to call a local rancher in that area and see how this affects them and see what their take is on it. Do I think this is a good thing? Yeah. Here's the other thing. There were no certain roads and stuff. This is another story that's being told. Well, there was no roads out there, so you can't do this, and the fires were bad, and you can't put them out. Watch what you read on social media and keep an eye on this. This is not the last that you're going to see of this national monument story. All right, I got to move on. Let's talk some positive stories. There's some heroes among us. And amidst all the noise in Washington, real heroes still doing work. Here's some 3 stories, not politically related. Venezuela earthquake, South Florida Task Force 2 spent 58 hours in rubble. Maybe a rumble. Canine Piper located a security guard buried under 160 tons of concrete. They got the guy out alive. 58 hours. They stayed on there and they pulled the security guard out. That's awesome. That's commitment. Thank you, Canine Piper, for doing your job. Appreciate you. Here's another one. Detroit house fire. A family told firefighters they were going back inside for their dogs. Firefighters went in. They found a baby girl in a crib. The family had not told them the child was inside. The firefighters got her out. They saved the baby's life, and because they did, because they didn't hesitate, they saved there's questions on that one there. Like, okay, you're going back in to get your dogs, but what about the kid in the crib? Might be some more, but kudos to the firefighters. Thank you. What do we have here? David, there's already vandalism fully protected. They need more rangers, not more land. I agree, David. I agree. Uncle Rob, what's up? Good morning to you. Appreciate you jumping on. Story number 3. This is out of Idaho. An off-duty first responder was at home when a neighbor collapsed. He did not wait for an ambulance. He started CPR on his own on the front lawn and saved the guy's life, saved the neighbor's life. That's a good story. That's a positive. Damn it. I like it. Good job. These are, we talk about HMG and we say the community heroes, and those 3 points right there are the epitome of what community heroes means. These are, it's particularly this last one, off duty first responder, talking to a neighbor, saw a neighbor in the yard and just collapsed. You could be a community hero doing something like that. These are all stories that you aren't, as somebody once told me, these aren't, feel good stories aren't sexy. They don't sell. Bullshit. We need more positive stories like this to counteract the BS that I read earlier and all the negativity and the stuff that's going on to get everybody worked up, right? Here's a question for you. I've covered this before. A couple people brought up, hey, what were my thoughts on, what were my thoughts on the Pentagon and Israel defense stuff? I think you got to dig deeper into that. Well, here's what I found. Sections 219 and 224 explain joint procurement, missile defense integration, and shared command cooperation between the United States and Israel. The bill calls it cooperation. Critics online are calling it a merger. Is it standard allied cooperation? Yeah, to a point. We cooperate with NATO allies, with Japan, South Korea. But the level of integration described here goes much deeper than a typical joint exercise. It's about shared procurement and command structures. It's about the defense mechanisms, what they use, and a lot of AI stuff, basically what they're talking about. So if you guys are interested in that, look that up. The NDAA itself that talks about what's going on with the Pentagon and Israel defense. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to cover all this stuff, guys. So I'm going to save the lab-grown milk for probably next week, but check that out. How many of you like lab-grown milk? Nope. I will say this. Depending on where you are in the country right now, I'm up in Pennsylvania right now, and the sky here, smoky. Somebody calls Smokey the Bear. Pennsylvania is at a code red right now, and that's because of the Canadian wildfire smoke from Ontario has drifted across into the northeast and mid-Atlantic. We actually have an air quality alert going on right now for New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania. Actually, some areas in Pennsylvania have hit what they call a code purple. I didn't dive into what all that means yet, but nevertheless, we got some events coming up. Mark your calendars. August 7th and 8th, the TSXCS, that's a mouthful, motocross coming back to Green Valley Hunter's Paradise in down in Virginia. We're going to be out there. We've got HMG Racing, Camden, our little buddy down there. We're sponsoring the HMG Racing team, so we're going to go down and see Camden race down there. It's going to be fun. If you're in the area or would like to come out to Virginia, let me know for the event. It's going to be awesome. Trish Lito, what up, girl? How you doing? Appreciate you jumping on. What else? What else we got? We got some more stuff coming up here. August 21st through the 23rd, Empowered Podcasting Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're a podcaster, this is the place you want to be. And yours truly will be taking the stage. I'll be doing a breakout session talking about building community. So I hope to see you guys there August 21st through the 23rd, Empowered Podcasting Conference. Go to empoweredpodcast.com and get your tickets. Talked about the MVP event coming up September 23rd with Olivia Nunn and our friend Ryan Beckman and Nate Boyer from MVP. Again, thank you to Olivia Nunn for joining us on the show this morning. Appreciate you. Also, that same week in Tampa, Florida, we are going to September 25th and 26th. We're going to be with our friends at Team Addo, ADDO. Go to teamaddo.org. And it's this year's 10th annual All Heroes Open. So on the 26th or the 25th that night, they're doing a little get together, one of the local watering holes down there in Tampa. And then on the 26th, it's going to be at the Yacht Club for the All Heroes Open Fishing Tournament. Do not wait. Deadline is August 1st to sign up. Make sure you check out all the shows at heroesmediagroup.com. We had some shows that go out. Dog Takes Ownership is one of our newer shows. They had special guests from Oscar Mike Radio, our buddy Travis Parrington. 500 episodes. Incredible milestone. Travis, if you see this, congratulations, brother. Proud of you. Checked it out. Dog Takes to Ownership. We also had From the Ashes Radio, brothers and sisters, our natural enemies like Englishmen and Scots, or Welshmen and Scots, or Japanese. It's just the Scots. Scots ruined everything, right? That's what they're saying. I don't know. Check it out. From the Ashes Radio. The Blue Line Voice, Blood, Sand, and Smoke. Jimmy Williams II is the guest. Talks about 26 years of being on the line and the brotherhood, the fires, the weight of every first responder carries home with them. Great episode. Check it out. Blue Line Voice, Blood, Sand, and Smoke. We also had Uncommon Sense. They're talking smoke talk, TSA, and so much more. You can check their live shows out on YouTube. Uncommon Sense. They're hilarious. The Decision Hour with yours truly. I spoke with True Carver. She served in the Peace Corps in Ethiopia and then joined the Coast Guard as an officer. And she talks about what it's like taking out the uniform. For a long time, she tried to do everything herself until she hit a brick wall. And she waved the white flag, asked for help. And she now takes women out fly fishing. And she wrote a book called The Starfish Chronicles, kind of going through everything that she talked about and what she's gone through. Amazing story, amazing woman. Check it out, The Decision Hour. Double S Podcast, they're coming live this Sunday. I think it's Sunday, the 19th. Is that right? It says Sunday right there. It's in the notes. Sunday live. if I could read. You're not going to want to miss this episode this week. They've got U.S. Army veteran and now social media informer Nicole Nathran Hedrick is going to be on the show. Check that out. Coming soon. Double S podcast, Misfit Nation podcast. This week, host Rich LaMonica welcomes Dr. Pam Arnell, executive director of 220. She's a psychologist, educator, suicide prevention advocate, and one of the nation's leading voices for veteran and first responders mental health. You want to listen to this one, Misfit Nation podcast. Check it out. They do a couple of shows each week. Excuse me. Homefront Sit Rep podcast. This week, Willis and Gunny Deeds welcome former U.S. Army officer and real estate investor, entrepreneur, and the founder of Land Sharks, Mr. Brett Bowers, to the show. Check that out. Homefront Sit Rep podcast, Arms Room show every Monday at 2 p.m. They got a new episode come out this week. They're talking about must-read books for self-improvement that you should read. Vet SOS podcast got new episodes out. We got your 6 at 6 with the People Patriot Project. Other Side of the Firewall. Check them out. These are all shows. I also want to give shout outs to Stas Fab, Prospect Hill Flag Company on Instagram. My Tax Fella, Forget Genetics, Jim Neary's Live Bait and Tackle, Green Valley Hunters Paradise, and of course, HMG Beverage. If you use promo code HMG10, I'm going to give you 10% off on a coffee for this week until the end of the month. So if you get a chance, go check that out. That's all the time I got, folks. I'm over time right now. Great show. Listen, I want to get you guys to remember, don't get the 45-degree syndrome this weekend. Get outside this weekend. Even if it's smoky, get outside, go for a walk, do something constructive. And for the love of God, people, critical thinking is a lost art. Let's think for ourselves. Let's bring back everything that we need to be doing and thinking about, right? Watch what you read and see. Do some research on it and put your own conclusions together. And if there's something that you want me to talk about next week, we will be back in the studio here next week, I believe. Maybe not. I got to look. Stand by on that. In the meantime, God bless you. God bless America. I love you all. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.